All right, folks, sorry for the delay. We're going to call the meeting to order at 7:08. Let me start with the board norms, which are to maintain our focus, communicate respectfully, be present, keep the board productive and effective, and respect the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? All right. Seeing none, let's move on to our student report, and I've heard that Trevor is out there.
Yes, thank you. Our basketball teams are doing pretty all right so far this season, hoping to get a little bit more wins going further into the season. Everyone is super excited for our winter sports, which is starting this Wednesday. There's so many options, and everyone's really excited for it. We have auditions for our next show next week, and we're getting ready, and that's the show that we take up to the drama festival and compete with 3 other schools. And the students that are enrolled in the BEMSA program next semester are going down this Thursday to tour the facility and get accustomed with how it is and what they're going to be doing next semester. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to correspondence. We did have some correspondence, and that was from Crystal. She has given her official notice that this will be her last board meeting, and so we will definitely miss you, and but understand.
Thank you.
We will actually talk a little bit more about that later, but just wanted to recognize that correspondence. And then also, I believe we would probably want to officially put that email in as her official resignation into the minutes, if we could. It'd be great. Speaking of you. All right, moving on to old business. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 11th, 2023.
So moved.
Peter, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Crystal. Any discussion? Sarah?
I'm not on there, but I was present.
Well, let's make sure you're in there.
I was,
You were Zoom.
I was
Zoom,
Zoom,
right?
yeah.
Yep.
She's
Okay.
sick.
All right, any other changes? Peter and Crystal with that amendment?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, and approved financials. Joe.
Make a motion to approve pay order number 41 in the amount of $50,261.92, and pay order number 44 in the amount of $10,000, $272.89.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Crystal. Get all these motions, all right, Crystal? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Leland and Gray sprinkler system update on the implementation. Hello, Greg.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, you?
So, as many of you know, we were working on a variance with the fire marshals. We were able to get that finalized. Board Chair Clausen got the letters signed and back very quickly, as I thought that he would. So we met with Tammy Clausen, Lori Garland and I, Mike Bingham, the facility manager, and Dana and Bridget Corby, the admin assistant. We all met to kind of talk about what this would look like as far as how we roll it out. Bridget took it on as to be kind of the main manager person, who is the admin assistant, because she schedules so many of the events anyway. So it just kind of made sense for it to be her. And I, and Mike are actually going to be the first ones to be certified in crowd management tomorrow. And then we just figure once we get into it, that will really help lay the groundwork for exactly what it's going to look like. and what we'll need moving forward to fully implement it. But we're hoping to get it done pretty quick, and we're excited about where it's headed and where it's going. So
Great. Thanks, Greg. And thank you for being so persistent about that and getting us to a very successful resolution to that. I appreciate it.
absolutely, yeah, that did work out. So we'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Long-term planning update.
You want me to just keep going?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go for it.
So I'm meeting Wednesday at 1:30 with Diane Abate from Stevens, and we are going to go through the CNAs and the facility conditions indexes, and just so that, because one of the things they're looking at, right, is like based on our buildings, how much maintenance and work is needed on them. So we're going to go through that and just kind of go through what's been done, what hasn't been done as far as the CNA from 2018 or 17. And then we'll also look at some of the stuff from the facilities condition indexes too, just to kind of further that detail. And then I believe that will be all that she'll really need from us at that point, from my understanding. And then I think it'll be back in Bob's court at that point.
Yeah, so that's this Wednesday, right?
Yes, sir.
And then next Wednesday, she would like to meet with the committee, whatever that is now called, long-term planning committee. She felt that as many of the original people who have been involved throughout the way to stay on if possible. So she's asked me to gather names tonight so that she can do a little doodle poll, but we're looking for next Wednesday afternoon, if that helps people, with the idea to kind of unpack everything that they discussed with Greg. So, but yeah, it'd be the combination of some administrators and board members. So I don't know how what the pleasure is of the board to see who serves on that, but it is during the day. It'd be a week from this Wednesday.
Okay. Afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's like 1:30ish, something like that, maybe, or even after that. So
Okay.
whatever's doable by people.
Well, let's see. Lindsay, weigh in. You guys are the
I have
the OGs.
a ski group until at least 2:30 or 3.
Right. Just that's
do-
just bit.
So I
I
can't.
thought it was the
Oh,
17th was a non-gist day. Let me check, I put them all in.
That actually sounds
Yeah, I
right.
think it's
The
a
week
non-just
after.
day next week. But Leland and Gray has winter
So
sports.
then I could. Let me see. On the 17th, I guess I could theoretically do something between.
Well, she might do a doodle poll if we get some names.
I have like a very small window, like 3:30 until
3:45.
4:30.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, right.
All right. Well, it doesn't necessarily be Wednesday either. We're just thinking that.
I mean,
Try to
you
keep it
feel
in the
free to
flow,
send me a doodle poll, and
Alright, so I
I
have
may or may not
Lindsay's
be able
name.
to
Okay, so Lindsay.
participate. Life is.
Drew still.
Yeah, I'm still good.
Lindsay,
Leanne. Dana was the other one, right?
Dana was the other one.
Okay.
You
He's
put him
on.
on that list.
We'll put him on the list. And then Greg,
for not being there.
then Greg, Dana, myself, and I think you want to be in there as well. We'll just throw some people in there as well, and we'll have her send out a doodle poll. So look for something like Diane Abate,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
So
You can put me on that list.
as well, okay.
Perfect.
And then once we know when that is, because, well, would we, if there's 5 board members,
Right.
is that a quorum or no?
Nope.
No, so we're good. We don't. Okay. So I will do that with Dana, Greg, Lori, and myself. All right. So look for something from her, and we'll get that set up and get this party going.
All right, sounds good. Anything on NEASC? Just kind of.
Nothing new since last time on NEASC.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business, Act 72 update, PCB radon. Action do we need to take on?
All right then. So
Sticking with you, Greg.
Act 72 is basically it's a spin-off of the PCB stuff. Act 72 is what was initially triggered the PCB testing, and then another portion of that is radon testing, and they gave a 1-year extension last year because most people didn't notice it in there and hadn't done anything with it. And ideally, we would do this testing during the heating season And so what I'm looking for from the board is just approval to sign on these contracts with Fuss and O'Neill to have the radon testing done this fall, so that we would meet our end of the bargain for Act 72. That says it needs to be done by June 30th of 24. So ideally, the sooner the better. I was hoping to have you a total number. My girls have not made getting that together feasible so far.
Rescue email.
Okay, Drew,
Didn't we do this already?
radon testing?
Didn't we do radon remediation and our buildings? Like, I remember this conversation from a few years back.
So
It's part of why Leland and Gray is so much cheaper. The new law is literally saying that you have to test every room. You guys did you did areas, and then that drove that. So Leland and Gray, to test Leland and Gray is going to be less than it is to do Dover, because I was able to send that data off to the people that were bidding and say, hey, a lot of this we've got numbers for, and they said that's good. We won't have to test those spaces. However, we have to test everything else because the Act 72 law is more stringently around what they're requiring to be tested. So basically, every ground level classroom is having to be tested. I was hoping the same thing, Drew, that we would have kind of been able to slide by with what we had done, and we did not get approval for that.
I guess now we find out whether our remediation worked well.
Yeah, right.
And if it's continuing to, right? Because when you initially did it, you did test after, so you had before and after results. But it will be good to kind of test too and see how we are. I believe it's about 6 or 8 years down the road from when you all did it before.
How often do you need to do it? What is the?
I think they're just saying once, as far as the requirement of this.
Once period. Wow. Okay. Greg, do you need board signature on that as well?
Okay, one more question.
Oh, of course.
I'm just looking for you all to approve the expense, which is why I'm trying to quickly throw together a total for you. So Leland and Gray is $97.77. Yeah, $97.77. If it's okay with you guys, I'll send you a total in an email, and then you guys can all review it, as long as you just, or I just don't want to do something like this without you all knowing it's happening.
And so do we have? So you have that number. What would the ballpark be overall?
You're 30,000, I think, is the district.
30,000. Okay.
Yeah, I had it, and then I don't have it.
Where's that coming from?
I think it's sitting on my desk, to be honest with you.
I was just about to ask him. I think that's what we discussed. We discussed that coming from capital, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Capital?
Yep. Yeah. So 6490 at Newbrook. I think Townsend was about the same. And so there were a little over $6,000. So that's what, 25. And then I think Jamaica was 5,500, if I'm correct.
We can take it out of regular operations if you prefer.
And the PCB testing, we did that already. We're compliant there, or is that in addition?
We're just waiting on the results of that, Drew. The preliminary results for Leland and Gray's PCB testing, and that's all being covered by the state. That is all being funded by them. That's not costing us anything at this point. But it's pointing at some oil that is in the that is coming out of the compressor in the water tank room. So far, that is one thing that the results came back and they were a little high on. But
All the buildings get done, or just Leland and Gray?
Leland and Gray is done. Townsend is not done. Newbrook is not done. Jamaica got a clean bill of health.
But
And then Dover.
They're scheduled.
Go ahead. All right, I just want to make sure those are being done.
Not yet.
Yeah, they are being done. 6,500 at Townsend, so you're 67 at Newbrook, 65 there. So yeah, and I think it was a little over $5,000. So it is. It's you figure 10 there. So we're right around $30,000 in radon testing. Apologize for not having a solid number to request.
That's right, Greg. So you said we could either take it out of capital or
Right. I mean, you're running a surplus right now, so, but this is fall, right? Are you talking about September?
This is as soon as we do this, we'll want to get the testing done because they
Okay.
want us to test during the heating season.
Yeah, so I probably would recommend it coming out of just general ops since you're running a surplus.
Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. Good. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Are you doing the budget second draft as well? Are you going over that? No?
I can stay if you want me to.
No. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Is there, I know that sorry, back on the same topic, a lot of press and concern around the PCB and the radon testing. So when we're done, can we make a spot somewhere on our public site to put those results so that people can access them easily?
Good idea.
Yeah. Great idea.
Did you hear that, Greg?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea to have that where, you know, it's public knowledge. We want people to know that we've done the testing, that we're transparent about the testing and the results of it. You know, it's a great idea. I'm all in on that.
All right. Anything else? Okay. All right, moving on to budget second draft.
Wow, it's been a month.
It's
been a month. Yeah. So I'm going to start with, I did send you just a copy of the budget again for anybody that didn't get it last time. Really doesn't have any changes to it from the last time with the exception of the added deferred maintenance that we need to discuss. So I'm starting with the narrative, which is this document here, for all those on Zoom. So the base expenditures, same year over year, came in at 8.26%. So the long-term weighted ADM did see a decrease from version 1. The state sent us a version and they hadn't prorated. So if you have a student that's prorated, it should be prorated through all of the weights, and that hadn't happened. So it was significant. It was like 24 students. So it was a drop, but it was appropriate to drop that. However, between version 1 and version 5 that came out about half an hour before I came here, which is the final version, you came back up. Heidi Russ went through every single student in our SU to make sure that they were coded properly to the correct town. So you actually gained about, I don't remember how many students it was, but it equated to about a couple $100,000. So glad to.
Well, it was worth my time.
It was worth her time.
You want to keep looking?
I tried to find some phantom ones.
So that does make the base unified rate without anything additional up 2.08%. So very modest percentage there. So that would have been a tax rate of $1.74 as the unified tax rate. Sounds wonderful, right? Everybody's happy so far, right? So we talked about the law, the Act 127 law last time, and this mechanism where you can cap at 5%, your tax rate can cap at 5%, and if you stay under a 10% year over year cost per student, you stay under the tax rate review trigger. So we talked about that. I think at that point it was because of the students, it was 1.9 million is what I said, that you could add and trigger all of those mechanisms down to 1.7. So that would bring your unified tax rate to capped at $1.79. Okay, so still sounds good until we get to the CLAs. So the CLAs came out, and that's the charts here that we're gonna look at right now. The CLAs came out last week, and you know, everybody's been pretty shocked, but we probably shouldn't be, because it's, the CLA is common level of appraisal is a 3-year average. And so we're dealing with, you know, 2020 when COVID hit, and we had a lot of people coming and paying cash for houses and paying much more than the value of the houses. So really we're seeing the full accumulation of that those COVID years. It does put all of your towns into a mandatory reappraisal, because you are down below the 80%, I think, even
85, I think it is.
85, yeah. So I think all of you are like tagged for that. I don't know when that will happen, but that is what I saw on the website. So I want to talk through this, how this looks, and do you still want to proceed with adding the deferred maintenance to this budget? So the first chart is using the 5% cap and keeping under that 10% review. So the current tax rates, you'll see in the second column there, that's what was on your tax bill for this current year. And then fiscal year 25 tax rate after the CLA. So you can see, for example, Brookline is up 18.22%, 37 cents. So what does that look like on $100,000, right? So you can obviously multiply your house value times this, but so that's an increase of $299. Okay. The additional is $67 if you add the deferred maintenance, bringing the total increase to $366 per 100,000 of house value. Significant, right? So everybody, my email on Thursday was blowing up after these came out, and this is statewide that this is happening unless you were reappraised. If you're reappraised, you're obviously in a much better situation here, although if you're reappraised, you're also paying on a higher value as well. Your tax rate might be lower, but you're paying on a higher value. So over the weekend, I had to put together a data collection because the president of VASBO is meeting with House Ways and Means and the tax commissioner's office sometime during this week, and I'll have more information about what this does to the yield, because this is all, you know, the yield is the mechanism, as we talked before, of how to raise and lower taxes. So from all indications so far, it looked like the yield would drop again when the property tax department estimated the CLAs. They actually came in a little higher than they estimated, very tiny bit. So that would actually indicate that the yield would drop based on that. So a tiny bit, but that's only one minor piece of a larger picture of what is going on. So the strategy is that if you don't use the 5% cap, which you're under, right, if you don't add this money, then if the yield goes down, your tax rate will go up, and you'll just pay more in taxes and not have added anything to your budget. And you won't have the 5% protection into the next year, whether that sticks around or not. So that's probably going to be decided, you know, as the legislators get back together and start talking about this. The next chart is the gray. It's without the 5% cap and without anything. So that's just showing you the what the difference is. And then the last one I did put in there is if there wasn't a 5% cap and you added this amount of money, what would it have looked like, right? If you had just dropped in all your deferred maintenance into your budget, this is what it would look like without the cap. So it's definitely a significant amount of money using that cap. That seems, we don't know how long that cap will be around. We know it's here this year.
Lori, sorry, just to be clear, so that on the first page, I think I was thinking about this incorrectly. The with 5% cap and under 10% review includes the 1.75 that we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I
so.
looked at the next page and went to DEFCON 5.
Oh,
So,
gotcha.
all right.
Yeah.
So you're saying
this is with the cap and under the 10%. And I
Okay.
broke out that extra column to say, how much is that? You know, but it's still significant money, right? I mean,
Sure.
so you're still saying on a $400,000 house, using really round numbers, it's another $240, right? That you're saying taxpayer, or 30% of the taxpayers, let's make sure that we're clear about that, 30% of the taxpayers pay the full boat. So out of 10 of us in this room, 3 of us are paying full boat, and 7 of us are paying based on income and property value, so that you're getting a property tax credit, which is affected as well. You'll get less of a credit. So 6 times $240 is, still a significant amount of money that you're asking for. So just to give you more information, right? Because you need to make a decision about this like soon. I just wanted to talk about what would it cost to borrow that money, right? So you had renovations done years ago, and you had you're still paying on a $2.6 million bond. And if I can find the right document somewhere in here. All right. When it's all done, you will have paid $918,000 of interest. Okay. When that $2.6 million bond is all paid, you will have paid $918,000 of interest. If you were to borrow the $1.7 million to do the deferred maintenance over 20 years at the current rates, you will have paid $763,000 of interest. And if you went, I'm sorry, that was.
Dramatic. I bet you can't do that again.
That was actually on 30 years. No, that was on 20 years. And 30 years would be $1.2 million of interest. So just to kind of give perspective to the $400,000 house and the $240, right? It gives some perspective of what does that look like over time when you're paying back a bond.
What would the annual bond payment be?
So the annual bond payment on the 30-year or the 20-year?
Let's go 20.
Let's go 20.
I think 20 for,
Okay.
yeah.
$156,000 for 20 years.
What would the impact of that be on our tax rate?
It's probably about, I was gonna do that and I didn't do it. I would say it's probably 4 cents, maybe 5. Already, right? So if you were to just add that bond payment in, right? So you would, let's see, I can actually probably do it. So are you saying to take out the?
No, I was just curious, so if we were to borrow that money to do this work, we'd be adding a bond payment every year to our budget.
Correct.
Which would increase our tax rate by $67 per hundred? I'm just trying to, like, where are we at?
No, so if you added just the bond payment, right, it would probably be like 4 cents on the original number of 174 I gave you, right? So you're almost up to that 179 anyway. So it'd be probably about 4 cents. And you're paying, significant, almost 50-50 payment in interest and principal at that point. So it's just to give you an idea of, the cost of money, right? The cost of borrowing money.
Is there any chance that if we were to vote to do this, that a legislative change happens and we put it in the budget and we end up with the worst case scenario on the bottom of whatever page this is? Because
I can't promise you anything.
these numbers are scary.
They are very scary. They are very scary. And so I've had some feedback from other people, and so not all districts are taking advantage of this. And so my question back to the person who came at me with that is, I said, why? Why aren't they, right? And one of the reasons a colleague of mine I reached out to said that because they are fully funded in their capital. They don't feel the need to add anything additional because they have a fully funded capital plan. So I think that, it's things like that.
Can I ask if these people were of the haves and have-nots, were they the haves?
They possibly could be. I'm not sure,
Okay.
to be
And
honest.
I think that's what this is all about, right? The weighting adjustment. So, Bob, you aptly put last time that this is not a loophole. This is actually readjusting to what it should be, what it should have been for the last.
The weighting, yeah.
Weighting.
The weighting absolutely is, yeah.
So, CLA. So.
And thinking about how many times you guys have kicked maintenance down the road for maintenance to save programming for kids, right? I mean, that's what this is. This is about getting that opportunity again to not cut programming for kids and do the maintenance, deferred maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just so happens we're getting kicked in the teeth with the CLA, but
yeah.
Other than that.
It is unfortunate timing, right?
Yeah.
That this is all coming at the same time, right? So that's what I had for you. And to answer your question, I don't know. I really.
Can Emily answer that question? Can we put her on the spot?
Emily's
Is she on?
the call. Yep.
Emily's here.
I'm on. Can I answer what question?
Is there likely to be some sort of change in the law that would put us in the situation where we're paying the 30% tax increase that's on this last page?
So there's no way I can answer what could happen in future legislatures and decisions that are made, but I would just suggest we proceed with caution and with taking the time we need before we make a decision on this, because every single day, we've only been in session 3 days. Lots of testimony is happening in House Ed and Ways and Means right now. I don't know whether this board is ready to make a decision about their budget, but Lori and Bob can tell us when the last date we can make our decision around this. But I would suggest there's a couple of things happening. There's testimony happening with school construction aid and need, and school construction need across the state, and that there were some preliminary numbers that were showing some significant needs in the state that may require decisions to be made in the legislature to help support. But as far as will this change? I think it's possible it will change. I think we need to see where we're coming from. And I'm just, since you gave me the floor, Drew, thanks. I'm just going to say I'm seriously concerned about putting an increase on I'm just going to say it, on our taxpayers at this point in time without fully knowing what the future looks like. I'm trying to be very cautious and would suggest we all remain very cautious about next steps on this. I think we have needs in our buildings, and we certainly have deferred maintenance. We've been talking about this for years. I've been on this board longer than anybody, and we have put off lots and lots of decisions that would have been great if we could have done them earlier. But at this point in time, I think we need to be super careful about our next steps here, because I don't want to lock our taxpayers into significant increases in tax rates down the road. And I do respect what Lori just said about some folks are income sensitized. That's a law that's in place today, and I would assume it will continue, but even that I don't know, and it only protects a certain number of our members. So my suggestion is we proceed with caution and take all the time we need to make decisions. Again, we've been in session 3 days. Lots of testimony happening. I just heard tonight that Brad James is coming to House Education Committee on, I believe, Wednesday this week. So we may get some more information then. And a lot is unfolding around the CLA right now, as Lori just expressed. We're not alone in this. It is happening all over the place. And so there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Sorry for taking so much time, Al.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's good information from the legislative floor. Appreciate it. Bob.
So 2 things. One quick factual thing. So February 12th, I think, is your February meeting.
Okay.
That would kind of be your drop dead date as far as getting a warning approved and such to be ready for your annual meeting.
Okay.
So you don't have to adopt one today. Okay. The follow-up to that is really more of a question for Emily. Yes, it's only been 3 days, and how many boards adopting budgets? How does the number of early boards adopting budgets put pressure on the legislature to do or not do something once boards have already adopted budgets? Or is that an impossible question?
It's an impossible question, and I have no idea how many boards, Lori would know better than I do about how many boards are on a schedule to adopt budgets now. I mean, I think my guess is, Lori, again, you tell me what you think, but my guess is people are proceeding with caution right now and, not making decisions until they get all the information.
I do agree with that, Emily. I do think that the majority of school districts in the state vote on town meeting day, so they are adopting budgets earlier than West River or River Valleys, for that matter. So at least that's the feeling I get when I go to VASBO meetings, which I do have one on Friday, which should give us a little bit more information with this data collection that I did. All of the districts are sent in or supposed to send in their information so that good conversations can be had. And it's, it really, I think at this point is coming down to the yield, but I just don't know.
Lori, yield, as you well know, yield doesn't ever get set until we know what the budgets that are passed are come in at.
Right.
We set our yield based on what local spending is.
Correct, yeah, and I think that, but there's factors that we're seeing now, like for example, Nicole Lee, who is the new Brad James, so the extraordinary cost for special ed came back much, much higher than she had projected for the original yield, the December 1st letter. So, that's again another little piece that indicates that the yield would go down. So I think everybody, at least my colleagues, are looking for what's going to happen to the yield. Is it going to drop, or will action be taken and it is raised so the tax rates aren't as low because of the CLA?
Well, I'm just gonna ask this for anybody who's newer, and might not understand Peter. Yield, just explain briefly. I know
30
it's
seconds.
very, very complicated.
It's the cost of a student if the tax rate were $1, but it's really what it's used to raise and lower the tax rate to make sure that the ed fund has enough money to fund all of our ed spending numbers. So you know the ed spending numbers that we talk about, which is a simple calculation of expenses minus offsetting revenues, which are grants or local revenues. That's the amount of money that we need from the ed fund to support the students in West River Valley. And so the yield is making sure that there's enough money to pay everybody. And if there's not, then the way to raise that money is to drop the yield, raise taxes, so people pay in more, and then everybody can be funded.
So yield down, taxes up.
How? Peter.
How is the yield expressed? I'm confused on how if it drops, taxes go up.
If it drops, taxes go up. So it's basically on the December, they take an estimate of all the ed spending in the state.
Right.
Right, and then they set the yield based on that. Okay, so in the December 1st letter, ed spending was averaging 12%.
Okay.
So there was a year-over-year increase of 12%, right? So they set that yield to bring in enough taxes to equal that amount of money in the education fund. There's other factors in the education fund. There's sales tax and other things, but what they would need to fund ed spending. So if budgets come in much higher than that, than the 12%, then your yield isn't enough, right? So you have to lower it to raise the taxes.
I understand it about as much as I'm going to tonight.
Best way is to look at Lori's, I think it's what is called a 3-year, which actually shows the absolute flow of everything, including the yield, tax rate, et cetera. And you can see what is being divided by what to get to that number. So it's a long formula, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any talk of a magic pot of Montpelier money to offset ed spending this year like they've used in the last few years?
I have not heard any so far.
No magic money?
No, there was a surplus, right? Yeah, for the last couple of years. Again, as a result of COVID, there was a surplus in the ed fund, but I believe that this yield that was set is taking that into consideration, using that.
Oh.
So there's, and we knew that would
Magic
come.
money's already in the pot.
Yes, yes. We knew that would come to an end, right? I mean, that we were informed of that early on. So I wish I had better answers for you.
So if there's magic money in the pot and there's no more magic money next year, then probably not gonna get better next year.
Your CLAs might get better if the 2020 year drops off and housing is stabilized this year a little bit. It's not really stabilized, but it's better than it was. So maybe your CLA comes up, maybe you're appraised, that type of thing. So your tax rate will look better, but I think it really kind of comes out in the wash, to be honest with you. Right, so the only thing in your control is to cut spending. That is the only thing you have to do, and you can certainly make that decision and run with your budget the way it is. My only concern with that is you aren't over the 5% now. So again, if the yield does drop, now you're just paying more in tax. And that's a concern. And I don't know what the future holds for this law. I mean, the 5% could go away next year. So it's not like you could try to use it next year. So that's.
And if we don't use the 5% this year, then next year, even if it's still there, we can't take advantage of it then, right?
Correct.
Use it now or forever forget it, however long it stays in law.
That's a huge strike.
Right.
So
That's the way the law is written.
Yeah. Just clarifying.
So February 12th, we're fine to hold off until,
Yes.
right? Because is it a 30 to 40 day window?
So,
or-
well, you want to have that approved so that you can write the warning, and the warning has to be adopted between 45 and 30 days from the
Okay.
meeting, and
Yeah.
that window starts, had that written earlier, is like February 23rd.
23rd, I think.
So you're gonna probably have to do some kind of a special meeting anyways, towards the end of February, just to approve the warnings. But yeah, we want to have time to put together the annual report to get ready and go to the printer and everything else. So the 12th would really be kind of an ideal approval deadline for you guys.
Okay.
You could also do you could do a special meeting in between now and the 12th. If Laura gets more information, we can share that out and talk with Al about a special meeting to talk about what the new information is. So you have one more opportunity before the 12th to discuss what the shift and what's happening. You could do that. Other districts have multiple meetings sometimes to talk about things. So.
And may I just ask, is there anything that the board wants to direct me to do with the budget as it is right now? I mean, I know that the budget committee, we went line by line by line through the budget, and everybody felt really comfortable with the numbers, but I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight of the actual, what we're here for is the expenditure budgets.
Emily. Thank you.
Thanks. Lori, I sent you and Bob a link or an email that I received about after-school grants, and I just wanted to touch base on that. I honestly, I haven't had time to frankly look into it much, but I felt kind of like I needed to put that out there for you, and maybe you could give us feedback on that.
Yes, I haven't had time to really look into it, but I know that we were aware of it. And it is different than 21C, which is good. And I think we're looking into it.
I believe one just got submitted last week.
Yeah, this is something
Okay,
in
one.
addition to this. It was a new, it was another
It was new,
act.
Lori. That's why I sent it to you, because it was new and it was a grant opportunity, and I wanted to make sure that as soon as I got it, you got it. So I sent it to you too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll definitely look into it. I haven't read through it yet.
Okay, great.
But certainly it would help the after-school costs. The first thing I'll look to see is whether we can, budget for the after-school and still apply for the grant.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I mentioned it was because that was a pretty significant increase in our budget this year.
It was.
So I just had concerns about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. All right. Are we ready to hold off until February 12th?
Ready to do nothing?
Yeah.
Ready to do
Okay, so yeah, we'll be.
Al, can I just say we should hold off? I would agree with what you just said, but
Okay.
if I would also suggest that we take into consideration what Bob just said, and that if we get information ahead of time, we should be prepared to hold a special meeting. I know there's a warning period around that and everything, but if that's necessary, I don't think we should eliminate any possibilities right now.
I think that's a fair point, Emily. Yeah, sorry. How about better phrase? We could wait until February 12th, and yeah, with further information, we can look to hold a special meeting for sure.
I think once Lori attends their Friday meeting, maybe the three of us connect, Al, and just see where we're at, whether it's worth to pursue another meeting in the meantime based on what we learned. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
How many total new positions do we have in this year's budget?
In this new budget, we moved in a 0.5 ESSER that wasn't in there, so that's 0.5, and then a 1.0 cleaning custodial, and then we also moved in a 1.0 that was from ESSER, the campus security officer. So what does that make that? 2.5 new positions.
I'm guessing no positions were dropped.
There were no positions dropped.
And what was it for that SU? For, we added a 0.5 at the SU?
No, ESSER.
No, but in the SU wide, we also added a 0.5, didn't we?
SU wide, we added a 0.5 for what?
Position.
Position.
In the SU budget.
Oh, for the business office?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. For the overlap of my position when I retire.
I just want to make sure that I'm thinking
Yes.
all the parties.
Yeah.
I mean, that still affects us, right? So.
It does.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, thoughts? So yeah, we'll touch base after.
Okay.
What time's your meeting on Friday?
All day.
All day? Oh, geez.
2 hours away. All day.
Okay, maybe Monday.
So I just put out there, this is a mess. Not this document, but this process. Because of years of, education funding formula problems and a pandemic in the middle of it, and not realistic budgets because of surpluses being paid in different areas and federal grants. Like this entire budget process this year, it sounds like probably again next year is going to be, I guess a mess is the nicest way I can put it. It's really difficult to look at this budget and try to think about like what we're trying to build when you have all of these other unknowns about how the funding is going to be. Like we're talking about waiting until Friday now because we may get some key information about how education funding. So from a board member's perspective, I just want to put out there to the public that this is not easy because there's nothing certain in our future. Like we're talking about a yield that could change up until June.
Yes.
We're talking about laws that are likely to change and have an effect on this 5% or not that 5%. At the same time, we're trying to come up with a solid plan for the future. So, like I said, a mess is the best thing I can say. And I'm not talking about the budget, I'm talking about the process.
I think that's the important distinction, right? Is like the expenditure budget is one thing. How you get to the tax rate is an entirely different thing.
And unfortunately, they're connected. And
Of
they're
course,
connected
right.
in a way that makes it very difficult for us to come up with a really good long-term plan for education because we just don't know.
But one other advantage, and I don't know what will come of next week's long-term planning, because I don't think there's going to be like a silver bullet, shine of light coming down. But there may be some information there that might help the conversation too around where if you were going to take advantage of the 1.7, like now maybe there's an idea around what you might use it for. I don't know. So, or there might not be, and then that might change how you think about it too. So, as long as you're waiting a little bit is okay, as long as we aren't waiting too long. But yeah, process stinks.
Yeah. Indeed. Well said. All right, anything else on that? We move on to establishing the tuition rate for school year 2025, FY25.
So you do this every year, and so this sets the tuition rate for students attending, coming into the district. And I usually try to be right around the average, the areas, kind of being in the market. Burton went up 4.9%, so that's what I increased your secondary to $20,865. So that's my recommendation. And then for the primary, I increased it by 4% from last year, year over year. And that's what I'm doing throughout our district, and then what I'm seeing from other districts.
Okay.
So I just need a motion to set the tuition rates.
Okay. Do you want to make a motion to that effect?
Can I just ask, Lori, can you repeat what the increase was at Burn?
4.9%.
And how many of our students in our district go to Burn?
How many? Off the top of my head, I don't remember how many, but they're from mainly River Valleys and Stratton going to Burton. I can get you that number, Emily, if you'd like.
I just missed the 4.9, and I appreciate you sharing that. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks. All right. Entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make it.
Thanks, Joe.
4.9 and 4.0, right? For the increases?
Sure, you can say the.
Well, it was 20,865 for secondary, but the primary number I missed.
I maybe didn't say 18,200.
That would be my motion, 18,200.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Crystal. Any discussion? Go, Drew.
I think I ask this every year.
So quiet. Roll the tape.
It's an important question.
So our cost per student is 20.
Well, technically now your cost per student is a lot lower, right?
Oh, right, that's right. What is our cost per student?
$16,470.
I love the tuition rate. I
However,
withdraw my question.
However, that's not really the true cost per student, right? But,
Oh, come on.
but the answer to your question is that I usually set it to stay competitive, because otherwise we will not have students coming here but choosing other schools if it's cheaper in some cases.
All right. Motion and second. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And on to school choice.
School choice. So this is again an annual thing. I don't remember what Drew's question about this normally is, but so under statutes, each district that operates a high school must set or may set a transfer limit and must set a capacity for high school choice, public high school choice, in January. So before February 1st. And so this is the same document, same recommendations I make every year. And so because under transfer limits, this is for the number of students that depart Wheelan and Gray to choose another high school. You can limit that, but you can't limit it at a higher number or lower number than 5% of your student body, which we never get anywhere near there. So not having a transfer out limit is fine. You don't have to have one. So we maybe lose 1 to 2 kids a year, maybe. So we don't have to have any action on that part. On the capacity, though, we shall define our capacity to accept students. And again, we have generally had a motion to set our capacity at 20. We've never taken in 20. Again, it's usually 1 or 2. We usually even out with the numbers coming in and going out. And but you have to define that. And again, because the money doesn't follow the kids in this case, you want to limit, you want a capacity that wouldn't, I hesitate to use the word tax the system, but that would, you know, if you brought in too many kids and you don't have any money following them, could you adequately staff your programming? For us, it's not an issue, A, because numbers are low, and B, because we have space. So I would, again, suggest that you set a capacity of 20 and do not take action on a limit. And that's a yearly thing you have to do.
So moved.
Second. All right. Any discussion? Seeing none. Bobby, you were wrong. He didn't have
He
questions.
forgot his question.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to principal reports. Dana.
All right, Leland and Gray, principal report. Academic proficiency. We are working with Vermont Adult Learning to basically, this is odd, but solidify our alignment of the standards in order to provide an alternate path to graduation. Traditional classroom experience does not work for everyone. And we're trying to make sure that what we expect and what is provided there matches so that we have some consistency for our students in terms of when they get their diploma. Winter benchmarking has begun. Personalized learning, we had a great PBL festival on the 20th of December. It really was a good success. It was awesome. Student learning was on display. Kind of try to walk around and not be seen or noticed, but repeatedly heard positives from adults, visitors, and staff in terms of what they experienced. So it was nice, and to the credit of the students. There was a moment where I was like this is one of those things where Leland and Gray is special because I'm not sure many other schools could really pull it off. And again, I would give credit to the staff and students. Coming up this next week, we have our ELA staff, mostly the middle school staff, are going to be working with the strategic instruction model around writing. And I've been seeing it more and more in the classrooms, and I think I've heard from a number of students that it's clear, it makes sense to them, it's helping. So we're going to continue that. But of course, I'm going to continue to get feedback from the staff. How's it working? Is it making sense? Is it explicit enough that students are getting it? Under Safe, Healthy Schools, Choices Matter Assembly. It was, again, the students were excellent. When the assembly finished, the gentleman speaking to the students, that one of the people that works with him was like, we've been to 30 schools. This was easily the best audience. So again, the students are delivering. I wasn't sure how this went for the students. It was an hour, and I'm like, it was an hour. And but at the same time, I had a number of students who were like, this was the best assembly. And I was like, really? And they're like, I could relate. I'm like, good for me to know, because what we expect isn't always what matches. So that was nice. I feel like I'm seeing the student council more and more, which is nice. I know I put for adding variety to the student assemblies, but I think we're starting to get more of a rhythm down, which is nice. And then the Up for Learning group has run a survey in the school, staff and students getting information about the climate, because they are working on around restorative practices. But of course, if you don't have a solid community, you don't have anything to restore. So you got to make sure everybody feels like they're a part of the school. And and belong before you can really work that angle to restore and repair. Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. Peter?
Do you happen to know what was, and I'm sorry if it's not last month, but what was feedback on the student newspaper?
You just had to go right there, didn't you?
Sorry.
Well, the first issue, didn't hear a whole lot. The second issue, I heard a lot. The third issue, I didn't hear a whole lot. So I would give, so first of all, the second issue I know was maybe jarring to people, but I view it this way. We have student council, we have Up for Learning, and student group with Up for Learning, and we have the student newspaper. I believe in freedom of speech, but here's the interesting thing with this student newspaper. It is like, think of it like a sporting event, a game for the students. Like, they're practicing, but they're delivering a product. They're working on skills. They're figuring this out. Yes, they're given instruction, there's some oversight, but it's not like, if the adults edit it with a heavy hand, we're in a way taking away learning opportunities from the students. So what we did after the second issue, I met with Ray Chapin. We had a number of discussions, and actually I was gonna go speak with the students, not really in support, but just to ask them to be mindful. Never made it in, and all of a sudden we have this shift of the third issue. Is like, it's a wonderful piece again. So I stayed out of it, and maybe that was for the best, but I appreciate what the students are doing. I want them to challenge. I want them to challenge. I want them to question things. I want them to do it respectfully. I want them to have accurate information, and I know the teacher wants that for them too, but they're learning. So I would ask the community to be supportive of the students, to enjoy the newspaper. But actually, there's been some changes to the newspaper. There's like a corrections section now. So they're adapting, and I do think the students are being responsible. And I'm gonna encourage them that challenge the norm, and it's your school, own it, and challenge us, ask questions, be respectful, but you know, it's an avenue for you to have voice, but I think the students have stepped up, and I think the teachers done a nice job addressing it, so.
And I'll just add that after my controversial rain day call, I did get a journalism student email me and want to do an interview with me about what goes into calling a snow day. So I came up and I did an interview with them last week, and yeah, so there'll be a story in the next one about how to call a snow day. So there's a little bit of an edge, but it's good. It's like learning how to do this.
Can we get on the distribution list for this?
You do not want the student newspaper to just be all like, just can't be one column. Like, they need a place to challenge and question, and they're figuring out how journalism works. And I think they're distributing copies through a couple places in town, but I think it's great. I support them.
I think your analogy of the sporting event is a great one though, because they're practicing, but
they are.
But you go to a basketball game and kids still have turnovers.
Yes.
You go to a concert and kids still squeaks the clarinet.
Yep.
It's not perfect.
No.
But it's building towards something, right?
But with a newspaper though, we believe it and we take it, and it's like, no, I mean, you know, Bob came through the other day, he's like, no, we're not. I'm like, I haven't been here long enough to know, but it's like, I appreciate the work. I mean, some of the level of detail in those articles is just like, it's awesome. But they're doing historical, they're doing profiles. They have a really nice newspaper going. There's gonna be I mean, hey, seriously, issue 2, 3-4 times. I'm like, what did I do? Like, what? You know, but so be it. You know, I'm the authority figure in the school, so it's okay. I want them to, it's how we learn, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Great.
Now I know what I'm gonna read tonight.
Check it out.
I'm looking for issue 2.
I have it. I have a copy. Saving them in a. It's all good though. I know. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Is it on the web?
Maybe you should.
Good question.
How does one get a copy of
Is
this?
it physical copy?
It's a good question.
This is a good way to build up demand, and then you sell them. That helps them.
I mean, at this point, I got at least $1 for issue 2.
Revenue source. Yeah.
Check on eBay tonight.
I have it in my drive. But I don't think I read that. I'm going.
All right, I can't see very well out there. Let's see.
Hey,
Renee.
Al, can I say?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Was somebody first before me?
No.
Nope.
I just want to reflect on what was just stated. How important it is that our students are trusted and that they have the freedom to. I want to thank both Bob and Dana about this. Our media today is sometimes a challenge, and I really love the idea of us giving students the opportunity to interview our superintendent and others. We need to have strong folks getting into the journalism. And speaking as a parent of a student who left Leland and Gray and went into college with a journalism focus, is now many years later working on communications. This is really important, and thank you for supporting the student newspaper and the students working on it and having a voice. Just wanted to say that. I deal with a lot of media today.
Yes, you do.
Probably some more in the next month or two, too.
Thanks, Alan. All right, let's see. I can see Renee.
Hello. Just to piggyback off that, and I see Chris Jers is on here too. Herself and I have been doing a newspaper after school club over at Townsend, so we're getting them ready for you, Drew. Or Dana, sorry.
True.
Okay, so I think the first thing I want to highlight, or probably one of the biggest things for Townsend, the biggest change is right before break. We got news about Wyndham Elementary, and we have taken on 12 now of their students, which is most of their school, and the transition's been going pretty well. So far, so good. And that is adding on to about the 17 new students we've had since the beginning of the year. So I know we continue to talk about declining enrollment, but Townsend has a 25% increase this year, which is good news. So we're feeling a little bit like sardines as far as the physical space goes, but yeah, we're working with it. The kids seem happy. And a big shout out to the staff and students for really making everybody feel welcome as they entered the building on January 2nd. So the meet and greet went really well. A lot of them showed up. We did some tours, staff pulled together, stayed after school at nighttime. We did a virtual presentation because of weather. There was a half day, and so we had to kind of change it and split it into two, but it's been going pretty well. So we're excited. Last Wednesday, we started our first winter sports, and we have, between Newbrook and Townsend, we have about 60 students doing the GIST program this year, which is a big increase this year too. Good to see. And based on the snow we had last Wednesday, which was none, we were really glad that we made those changes with gymnastics and the rock climbing at Newbrook. So it's been good feedback for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. I see Monica. I think I see Monica.
Yep, she's
Maybe you see me there. Hi there now. Good evening, everybody. So at Jamaica Village School, it seems like the month of December just went by in a flash. We were able to start our winter benchmarks towards the end, and we are now in full swing. And right now, things are looking promising so far. The first results are looking really, really good. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, we also started our GIST program. We started that on our day back from winter break. It was very organized. It went very smooth. The group at Stratton had everything organized, and we have a 92% student participation this year. So it's the most we've had in a long time. We're having fun every Tuesday afternoon and learning a lot on the mountain. And we also started, I believe in November, having tea, high tea. And so we continued that new tradition in December and took the opportunity to learn about the winter solstice while we drank tea and ate snacks from Canada. So we had some great conversation, holiday cheer. I finally got to find out a Joe Louis. Is that what it's called? The cookie moon pie looking thing. I think that's what it's called. And we made some crafts and had just a fun time. So thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Monica. Appreciate it. Is Scotty out there?
Scotty is not.
Scotty's not. Okay.
I mean, alive, but it's just came out wrong.
Thank you.
So I noticed we've got open positions between school counselor listed on both.
It's a shared one, full-time position.
Good question. I saw that too. Bob?
Yeah, so the cabinet report you guys should get the next day or two. We'll actually get a late start on it because of the winter break, but that should be coming out shortly. I do want to echo what Renee said and just give some praise to her and her staff for the quick literally a quick turnaround week. In working with the folks up at Wyndham to be able to make the transition as smooth as possible for kids. The Wyndham has a part-time counselor, and I say part-time, I mean very part-time, a couple hours a week, and she has been the only staff member, other than Carla West, who is really at Townsend as well, that isn't new to them. So the kids have really been really resilient, and I think that it was in part because of the kids and families and the support for the move, but also because of Renee and her staff and the way that they've really welcomed the kids and really set up the other existing students for welcoming them. And that's it's an explicit act. You know, it doesn't just happen automatically, I think. And so very thoughtful approach to that. And so I just want to thank her and her staff for that. And from all accounts I hear, it's going quite well. So.
Thank you, Bob.
Absolutely.
All right. Any questions for Bob? Seeing none. We're doing well, Leanne.
Bring him to every meeting.
All right, moving on to policies. We're here to potentially adopt C15, which is student conduct and discipline, the required policy, and adopt E11, which is an investment policy, which I know Lori is very vested in.
It's well played.
Invested and invested.
So so C15, the discipline one, is one that we had tabled the first time you guys reviewed it, because there were some questions and some later research. I came back, I think, to the board last time and talked about, some of the questions were about the weapons definition, which is actually statutory. And so the recommendation from council is to move forward with adopting this, which you guys warned and are ready to adopt. The investment one is not a required one, but it's one that Lori can maybe say a little bit more about as well, having, if there's going to be an opportunity to take some reserve fund action, do something with it, we need to have a policy that governs how we do that. This is the same policy that the SU board currently uses, It may need some updating, but we figured to have a policy in place and then work on updating it later is better than not having one if you're gonna do some investing.
The bank wants us to have a policy in place, so before they'll, we can talk to people about different vehicles of investments, treasury bills. And
So yeah, these are up for, you've been warned, you're ready to be adopted.
All right. You both put them as a slate or individually?
Whatever your pleasure is.
Can we do it individually?
That's completely fine. Would you like to make that motion?
I will make the motion to adopt the investment policy.
E11, okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, that leaves us with.
I'll make the motion to adopt C15
Okay,
as warned.
I'll second.
thank you, Crystal. And discussion. Starting with the motion. Joe, Crystal? Oh. Peter, I can see it.
Yeah, I'm still uncomfortable with the definitions, even knowing that they are the state definitions, or whatever the proper wording of that is, statutory. I think it's asking for future issue at some point. But I recognize that the entirety of the policy is important to have in place. But I think some wordings in there are asking for possible issues in the future.
Thank you, Peter. Go ahead, Crystal.
So I have a question, I guess, for Dana and Bob. Although it has all this stuff, is it at your discretion how you handle these issues?
So what the policy is suggesting is that there's an overall discipline plan developed, which we would call our student handbook, which gets into some of the specifics on how you do that. You guys also have a special weapons policy that was adopted 2 years ago, maybe now. Where Scotty and I worked on that together, and that one it talks about weapons and it uses the same definition, and has expulsion as a result of weapons possession. And in that, you guys tweaked the recommended policy to give us leeway. For the example of a student who inadvertently has a jackknife in their backpack, or a kid that has something on his belt that he's coming from the career center, or a situation that is not intentional. There's been no threats made. It was literally a mistake, and so in those situations that Dana were discovered that what the policy that you guys adopted dictates him to confer with the superintendent and determine if it forces an expulsion hearing, whereas before the possession of it automatically drove to an expulsion hearing. And in fact, we've already had one this year where I think Jesse is one that actually called me and said, "Here's a situation, Dana said to call you," and I said, "Yep, this sounds like a pretty reasonable situation to not expel a kid for." And she said, "I agree," and we moved on away. So when you ask about the discretion, there is discretion built into your weapons policy. And this directs us to have basically procedures, which is the student handbook. So yes, to answer your question very shortly, yes, lots of discretion.
Any other questions?
Are those different based on the age of the kids?
Yeah, there's a developmentally appropriate element to that for sure. Yeah. And all the other facts of the case, is the kid actively making threats to someone? Is someone actively making threats to them as a self-defense thing? Is it just
Is it fishing season? Is it?
There's a third
were you working
grader
with your
who was hunting,
grandfather?
was camping with his parents the weekend before. Like, there's a lot of facts that feed into how you would deal with that. Common sense would also apply. One would hope.
Common sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking
What's that? Oh.
it's likely the kids coming back from events are gonna have sharp objects with them, so.
Scalpels.
I'm just saying, like.
Yeah. I mean, kids have sharp objects in the art room, in the wood shop. I mean, it's not unusual for there to be sharp objects, so.
Yeah. And I think this definition is like any instrument capable of stabbing, like.
Yeah, and I think Peter brought that up
pencil.
last time, yeah, I mean, sure, but it's, we use a common sense approach to this. But if someone goes on a spree and starts stabbing people with a pencil, then yeah, we're gonna use that definition. It's like, you know what I mean, it's context. Let's look at this now.
All right, any other discussion? None? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed?
May I abstain?
Any abstentions? Peter?
I abstain.
All right. Very good. The motion carries with one abstention. I think I caught that again. Got it good?
You got it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. Last, but not least, on to our board member resignation. Crystal, we will definitely miss you. And I don't want to put you on the spot or anything, but if you wanted to say anything.
No, it was a hard decision, not one I wanted to make, but it's appropriate given the situation. I advocate pretty loudly for my child's school choice. And I think just while I'm advocating for that, kind of puts Bob in a position. And now we have, you know, the Wyndham kids who are in this district, and if they have to come to this board, I don't think it's fair to them to see a board member that they know wants to close their school. So I just think that code of conduct is the right thing to do. But I learned a lot. I like being on the board, and I'm hopeful someday I'll get to come back.
Thank you for volunteering.
Do we have to vote to accept that? Or is it automatic? How does it work?
I don't think there's anything of interest. I mean,
You can't stop her.
Yeah.
It's formula.
Right.
I don't know if there's a formal
Possibly
procedure we have to go
true.
through or anything like that.
Well, there is a procedure, yeah, so and that's what I alluded to.
For appointing a new one, there is a procedure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But in terms of putting her
Never
into the
hurts to have a
official.
motion.
Right, yeah, Lori points out, it never hurts to have a motion to accept it.
And I did let the town clerk know and asked her to notify the public so that somebody could,
And your term ends when?
within next year.
Next year.
Yeah.
So the way the process would work is that the statute says that within 30 days, the board would appoint a replacement based on people who would seek interest. And so circulating the names, or circulating the vacancy through the town network in Wyndham, because she represents Wyndham, they would solicit names and they would send names to either Al or I. I gave both of our emails to the town clerk as well. And after you guys receive any interested names, you guys basically vote on who you choose to appoint. If you get one person, you can appoint that one person. If you get 0 people, then what should happen after 30 days is that the town actually has to hold a special election to fill the position. Whoever fills the position, they would serve out the rest of her term. So through a year from this March, if you will, right? So that's the basic premise. I've received nothing yet. I don't know if you've heard anything.
Yeah.
So as of right now, we have no interested parties, but we'll continue to put the word out and look. So, but this is her last, effective today, right? So this will be her last meeting.
So we can make that motion.
To accept.
Sure, I'll make a
Matter of
motion to
record.
accept
Yeah.
the resignation and thank Crystal for her work and dedication to the sport.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Just add my thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not that we can do anything about it for opposed. Yeah. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Crystal. All right, and where did our one public member
I would
go
say, I
to?
think Joe just lost $5.
He's exercising up there.
That's what I think.
Yeah, that's right.
He just got Joe $5.
That's what happened.
I'd like to make a motion that we impose the $5 penalty.
You're not the boss of me.
This is the Rotary Club.
Yeah.
All right, no public.
I don't know if the recording was going at the $5 promise, but I
All right, well, I will entertain that final motion.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries unanimously. And we will see you either February 12th or earlier, depending. Thank you.